day, land of Lincoln, Facebook, friends, and family. Welcome to this edition of Friday's Fun Financial Facts. I am your Chief Information Officer, Toby Reganey, and today we're going to talk about Internet of Things. What is this Internet of Things you talk about, Toby? Well, let me ask you this first. What do home assistants, wearables, webcams, doorbells, thermostats, scales, garage door openers, refrigerators, lights, outlets, blood pressure monitors, vacuums, and dog collars, yes, I said dog collars, all have in common? Well, you can connect them to the internet. And so we're going to talk about why and what the risks are of connecting these devices to the internet. Why would you want to do that? Quite frankly, it's cool. I mean, the convenience and the efficiencies that these devices bring, why wouldn't you do it? But let's talk about what we can do to protect ourselves moving forward. Before we talk about that, let's remind each other that both in our home life and our work life, the number one risk that we still have as it relates to data breaching and also giving up our personal information is email. We have to be careful with our emails. We talked a little bit about that a few weeks ago. I encourage you to go back and watch the cybersecurity tips that we gave a few weeks ago. But remember that email is still our number one concern, and that is our one of our biggest weaknesses. So we run our email on our desktop. We also run it on our laptops at home. And so keeping that in mind, any of these other devices that we bring online, be it our smartwatches, be it our doorbells, whatever those things are, those are all points of risk or points of opportunities to get onto our network. And so we want to make sure that the information that's out there, the information that we're sharing on these particular devices, that we're not giving that out via a virus that would come through an email or the other way through. The other thing is just giving up the controls of your home. The garage door openers, the doorbells, the door locks that we have, all these devices with them being accessible on the intranet. If you have somebody that is able to go by and actually compromise your Wi-Fi and access your network because it's running in a weak environment, they keep in mind that potentially they have access to these internal devices of your home, and the wrong guy could actually have access to being able to unlock your door and come on in and do whatever they need to do. So the other thing we want to talk about this, and I think the last statistic that I read is there's by 2020, we're going to have 21 billion, that's billion with a B, of these unique devices out there. Why are they so popular? Well, again, we talked about they're just cool. They create efficiencies. So what are we going to do? How can we protect? Let's get into the tips and tricks and knock this thing out for this afternoon. The first thing, and this is where I'm going to encourage you to spend the money or do the homework on these devices, but go ahead and spend on the quality name brand products. The Apples, the Amazons, the Googles of the world, you want to buy these products, and here's the reason why. The first reason why you're going to want to do that is because these are the big players in the market. They know what the security risks are. They are the developers of this product, and so they're the ones that are going out there and making sure that the patches and the releases and the firmware and all this stuff that's running on their hardware is up to date and is safe. But the smaller guys, the ones that are just trying to keep up with the big players, their focus is on market. They want to get to market. They want to be a player in the market. And so they're not as inclined to put security first. So, and those devices, because they're less popular, can tend to sit on store shelves a little bit longer. And again, anytime they're sitting on there and they have the security that may or may not be on there, not as up to date, or it's been on the shelf a little bit longer, is running some old security, you're just introducing that even more so than what you need to. So spend on the quality product, name brand products, okay? The next thing, once you get these devices home, when you set these up, most of the time they're all looking for username and passwords. A couple of things here I want to encourage you to do. Have a dedicated email account. I have a work email, I have a personal email, but then I also have just a junk email address that I use that I can put out there so that I can do things like that I wouldn't normally want to give my personal or my work email out to, but I can share with others. You go to the stores, you go to the Lowe's of the world, and they want an email address. A lot of times I'll put that out there because the risk of if that particular email is breached or compromised, I'm not giving up anything that would be related to my personal life or my work. So set up a unique email just for these types of devices and make sure, and again, I'm going to make a callback to my first video, strong passwords. If you don't know how to do that, you're not comfortable, it just frustrates you, how do you do it? Go back and watch my first video and I talk a lot about how we can set up some strong passwords. Again, we touched a little bit about the devices that are out there. When you get them home, you set them up, you get them on the network, one of the first things you're going to want to do. And the good devices, the Apples, the Googles, the Amazons of the world, they're going to force this behavior by default. But do the firmware updates. Call home, make sure that they're doing the updates. If you don't see that happening, before you set up any card information or any email information, things like that, make sure that you're going out to their websites and looking for a sort of update. These devices will prompt you to do it, and they will tell you if you're running on the latest release. So you got that. Next thing is, and I always forget about this one, and I went back and did my homework on this, and I'm going to bring a friend to the table here. This is my friend Alexa, and Alexa is all red, that ring there. I don't know if you can see that very well. And the reason is she's mad. And the reason she's mad at me right now is because I've actually muted her. The same behavior happens with my children. They don't have a button, but when I mute them, they just get red and mad. But I wanted to show you and remind you that, I could spend a whole nother hour just talking about the fact that these devices are listening to us. They have microphones, okay? So that in nature is what they do. Some people get real sensitive to the information that they may be gathering or taking in. If you're uncomfortable with that, go ahead and hit that button, and turn it off. But otherwise, go ahead and release it. I think she's happy. Let's find out. Hey, Alexa, tell me a joke.
What do you call a dog magician? A labracadabrador.
Let's go ahead and mute her. All right, so this is my friend Alexa, very powerful tool. Remember that she's got that offline, or she's got that mute button. I mentioned offline. Also, be familiar with what these products are. With all these 21 billion items that they're projecting and all the different features and things that they can do, you may not need to necessarily connect them to the outside world. Understand the difference between this being connected to your home Wi-Fi versus being connected to the intranet. I have a lot of home products that are on my Wi-Fi internal network, like my lights, but they're not connected necessarily to the outside world. But I can still control them remotely with my voice through these devices, but doesn't necessarily mean that they're tied to the internet. So do a little homework there. And the last tip then is know these devices and what information they're collecting. You've got these wearable devices now. A lot of them have the pedometers in them. They're collecting heart rates, things like that. That's all health-related items. The apps that run on these devices, they may go into a little bit more request as far as the information that they're gathering. You need to be comfortable with what these devices do. You need to understand it before you're throwing them on the network. So I hope that helps. I ran through those items relatively quickly. I would encourage you to go out. I'm at home today broadcasting this. I didn't see any questions pop up, but I'm going to go through and look at those afterwards. And if you do, I'll be glad to take any of your questions. And again, you can reach out to me directly. Come on and stop in by. I'm not down at the Prosperity branch. Come in and ask some questions, and I'll help you out. So good luck, everybody, and have a great weekend.